we will start doing a small demonstration about how to extend the XPO classes. This, I think, it will work also with the entity framework. Entity framework is not the main ORM that we use. Most of our projects are XPO actually. So anyway, let's start with that. So let me open the studio. And okay, so the idea of this example is a lot of times we have the need to extend our model in runtime. There are several ways that you can do this, depending on how you're seeing it. You can do it like by XPO without doing anything in XAF, or by XAF infrastructure. So in this case, I'm going to show the XAF way, even though I know that in some of the other meetups before, I have showed the XPO way. So in this case, we're going to use the type infrastructure from XAF. So, okay, this is one of the most common questions, like how can I add properties in runtime? There are several ways to do that. And here I have the information for that, like the link. This is the example that we're going to do, even though today I find out that there's a new way to do it, but we will not cover this here. So, okay, the first thing that you need to understand is that this is called how to extend the persistent objects in runtime, but there is only one moment during the runtime that you can do that. So how XAF works, you need to have all the persistent types already created. So there will be a model. So there will be a model that will create the views and everything on top of the ORM model. So before that happens is the moment where you can start and extend the objects. After that, first you cannot do it because there is a thread safe data layer that will not allow you to modify the objects. And also, even if you manage to do it, because I think they can't do something like that, you will need to recreate the model information from XAF. So let's start with this. So let me show you the persistent objects that I have here. I have this that I will use as an example. So if you can see this, there is only one property. There is nothing extra. So the way to do that in XAF is in the module where your type is defined, and it can be even an external type defined in another assembly. What you should do is actually something like this. So let's go here. And there is a method called customize types info. So in here, you have the type infrastructure that belongs to XAF. With this object, you can basically extend everything related to the persistent types, being that XPO or entity framework. With entity framework, it's a little bit different. So I will show like the XPO way at the moment. Let's go and open this method. So this is relatively actually a little bit simple. So the first thing that you need to do is find the type info. The type info, you can find it in two different ways. You can find it by full type name, which is a string like complete with the assembly name, or with the type class. But in this case, I wanted to do it with the name in a string for one reason. Sometimes you don't have reference to the type. You load it by reflection or something like that. So I like to show that you don't have to have the type class to do this. And there is also one more thing. This will actually return, this method will return an iType info. But in this case, what we're going to do is cast to type info. This will expose more methods than the interface. So that's why I casted to this. So let's see. Let's run this. And I will stop here and show the members and then create the new members. In this case, for this class, there's only one property defined in code. And in the end, I will have two more properties, last name and age. As you can see, I add the property with the name, the type. This can even be another persistent type. And you can add attributes, for example, after you get the member, basically. Because here, you will get member. You will get the metadata for that member that we just created. So you can continue extending this, for example, adding validations, adding attributes, adding whatever you want, you can basically do it with this information. And in the end, I will add a calculated member. So I'm adding full name. It will be a string, and this will be the expression that's going to be evaluated. So let's run this and let's see how it works. Okay, so first let's check the class info. Let's do a quick watch of this. And let's find the members. I don't see it in here. Key member, it's not that one. Here, all members. So we have the name, the property, we have the private field, then we have the optimistic log that is part of the object, even though you cannot see it, is like the optimistic log for the session, and the GC record in the end. All of these, like only this one is defined. Everything else is like a service infrastructure. So what we're going to do here is like, let's define the members. So here we watch this. You can even add the size attribute also, for example, to make it bigger. We can continue extended these members that we just created with this object. But let's go to all of the other ones. So let's log in. I think I pressed like continue in the keyboard, so we didn't see the other one. So basically, let me close all of this. Now, as you can see, here I have name, last name, age, and full name. So since what I added for the expression of full name, I didn't add the space, that's why it's showing us a single string. But for example, I will add my second last name because in the Spanish way we have two last names. So Melgar. I will save this and see, it's even calculating the value. So these are not defined in design time, they are defined in runtime. So these properties will be available all over the system, also in the model. For example, if you open the model here, you will see that that member is defined because we did it before the XAF infrastructure was starting. So now we have like a second problem, like, okay, we were able to create a member or a property in runtime, then how do we use it in other places? So let's go back to code, and here I have a controller for that. So let's come here, and here, and let's see this one. So there will be a moment that you will need to either get or set that on code. In the UI, as you can see, the property editors were there, nothing to do actually. But what will happen when you need to do it by code? So in here it's like kind of easy. If you see, you just in whatever view you are, you get the current object, you cast it as a type as you wanted. Then this line is basically XAF because you can do it also in an XPO way. And you find the type information. Once you have this, you can say something like to the info, find member, the member that we want to find is full name, and then the member, it has a property get value. And then you need to pass the instance of the object where you want to get that value. You have both methods here, get value, and you have also another set value. So basically, since there is no way to reference that property in code because it was not defined before, you cannot do like dot full name. This is the only way that you have to get that information. Or if you attach a visual control like a grid, for example, the property will also show because it will return a metadata that will include that part. So if I come here, I open this object and get full name, it will show that see Joche Ojeda Melgar. So even when the property was not defined in code, you can set the values in the UI and you can get and set the values actually in code. So it's really useful, but you need to do it at one moment, which is when the application is being set up. Just to give you a small advice, because we have this in other cases, since you have this method, the customize types info, sometimes you can have another external application where you get information about the business types and then you create a UI or whatever thing to extend it. Then you read that information in here. Maybe you can save that information in a database or a file or whatever, and then you execute it in this method. That will extend the object. But those customizations need to be run all the time, because what will happen if I remove this? So if I run this, when self-compile and try to start, it will not see those members. So what I'm trying to say is that the code that we execute in here is not changing your assemblies to add more information to it. Basically, everything is happening in memory. So whatever changes you have done, you need to keep running them all the time. See, now I mean, you cannot see the other properties, either age or full name. And this, of course, will throw an error. So if you're extending your application with a file or some more information from an external database, you need to remember that you will need to continue running that all the time. Like in every application startup, you need to do that. So if you added like, let's say like 300 properties to different objects, on the startup, you always have to do the same. Otherwise, it will not be visible for SAF. But it doesn't mean that if you don't run them, that will disappear from the tables. They will still be on the tables, but you need to run these all the time. If not, SAF will not see that they're there. And every code that you have, like by get or set members, will fail actually. So you can only do like small customization. I will suggest this to, for example, you have an invoice class and you want to add extra properties, then you add 3 or 4 properties like this, and good enough. Don't create your whole model in runtime because it will take time in the startup of the application. Okay, well, that was the first demo.